All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my fight prediction that will be taking place. This fight will be taking place in the sport of boxing between Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield. So this fight will also be on this loaded Dimitri Bivol and Arthur Beterbiev card. This will be on the undercard, but the more I talk about this card, I think it's one of the biggest cards that I've ever seen as a boxing fan. And definitely, as time goes on, I think it's going to go down as one of the biggest cards in boxing history. There's a lot of fights on here that are a lot of 50-50 fights, at worst 60-40. But Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield also joined the list. So Shakur Stevenson is going to be defending his WBC lightweight title against Floyd Schofield in this fight. So these are the following storylines that I have for this fight heading into this loaded card. So the first one is Floyd Schofield ready for this moment? Is he ready for this opportunity? Because this is really early on in Floyd Schofield's career. Now, I sit on the fence for this because Floyd Schofield is 18-0. Yes. He's 22 years of age. Yes. And sometimes you need to push a young cat, a young bull, to these big-time moments so they can either pull off the upset, become a world champion, or let them learn at a young age what it's like to dance on a big stage but lose. But for this circumstance, this could hurt Floyd Schofield moving forward for his career if he loses in a dominating fashion, because the fact that his promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, since he signed with Golden Boy Promotions, at first said he wanted no parts of this fight between Shakur and Floyd Schofield. He actually turned it down on social media when he was talking about the fight. Then he got to thinking and he changed his mind and had a change of heart and let Floyd Schofield chase his opportunity to get a title shot against Shakur Stevenson. But I really feel like I don't know if Floyd Schofield is really ready for this moment. And his father is the mouthpiece for Floyd Schofield. If you follow his career, there's always one guy that's in his corner that chirps the most, more than him, and it's his father. Now, this is how I feel about this in the sport of boxing. There's nothing wrong with having your dad as your manager, your dad as your cornerman, your dad as your coach. And we see father-son relationships pick up in the sport of boxing, and father-son duos have led to boxers being world champions. I think of Devin Haney and Bill Haney's relationship, and the way how Bill Haney has helped Devin Haney's career grow. I think of Teofimo Lopez and him and his father being close, and Teofimo being a two-division world champion. When I think of Floyd Schofield and his father, I don't get the same vibes. I get the vibes of him talking his son into a fight that he's not ready for. And yes, you get the biggest payday of your career, but that might hurt mentally moving forward when you get back to one of these big-time moments later on in your career if you're not successful Saturday. And yes, if you lose in a close fight, then you build from that and you learn from it. But if you get dismantled or dominated and embarrassed on a big stage like this, card is going to be on Saturday. I think that hurts your career moving forward. But that's something that we're going to have to look out for him. Now, the next storyline is, can Shakur Stevenson deliver a strong performance on a big card like this? Now, Shakur Stevenson, he's been dying to be that pay-per-view star, that box office attraction. He's not the main event, but there's no other bigger spotlight that you could get than this for making fans wanting to believe that you could be that box office attraction, for fans believing that you could be the most popular star in the sport of boxing. It doesn't get much bigger than this, because he's going to have to deliver a performance that makes boxing fans really care about him at this 135-pound division. You just saw over the weekend, we could be looking at a new face of this division in Keyshawn Davis. You got world champions like Keyshawn Davis. Fans still love them some Vasily Lomachenko. Gervonta Davis, a pound-for-pound star. All three of these guys are in your division. You got to put together a strong performance, because your last two outings against Edwin De Los Santos and Artem Khartounian, they were snooze fests, and they weren't something that made fans want to invest their time in believing that Shakur Stevens could be a box office attraction. Nobody's doubting the skills that Shakur has. The thing is, can you make the fights be interesting? Can you have a hometown fight where your fans don't pack it up and leave before the 12th and final round ends, because of how bored it is and how boring you are at performing. So I think Shakur Stevenson is going to have he's going to have a performance that makes fans care about him moving forward, as he wants to become a pound for pound star in the sport of boxing. He's a pound for pound fighter, but wants to be that box office attraction. So enough of the storylines. Let's get into the tail of the tape here. Starting with the challenger, Floyd Schofield. He's 18-0, has 12 victories come away of knockout, stands at 5'7" and has a reach of 68 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion, Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson has 22 victories, 0 losses to his resume, 10 victories come away of knockout. Currently the reigning defending WBC lightweight champion, stands at 5'8" and has a reach of 68 inches. So I'm looking at this, the height goes in favor of Shakur, but the reach is still the same. It seems like Shakur, though, with that reach, he does have a long wingspan. So we'll see how that plays out. The height and the reach plays out when these two respective fighters meet in the boxing ring. So the game plans that I have for the respective fighters to follow, starting with the challenger, Floyd Schofield, he's going to have to let the hands fly. Now, once Floyd Schofield gets in his bag and he lets his hands fly and lands the combinations, that's where we see the potential of him being a future world champion in the sport of boxing. So he's really good offensively when he lets his hands fly. I think if you do that, he could give us a chance for us to believe that he can upset Shakur Stevenson. Now, next, he has to start off quick and early. He has to put his foot on the gas pedal and be prepared to fight for all 12 rounds, because there cannot be times we get lackadaisical or you want to cruise for rounds. You can't afford to do that on a big-time fight like this. He has to put his foot on the gas pedal, because if you fall short or fall way behind on the judges' scorecards against Shakur Stevenson, a defensive fighter that's already hard to hit, you put yourself in danger of only needing a knockout to win this fight. And that's not something you need to bank on in your first world title opportunity, a knockout to get the victory. I would be prepared, and I hope him and his team are prepared to go 12 rounds in the deep waters with a pound-for-pound fighter like Shakur Stevenson, and doing whatever it takes to become the world champion. Not by trying to get a late knockout, but trying to outbox this guy for 12 championship rounds. And last but not least, I think Floyd Schofield cannot afford to lose confidence in that boxing ring, because yes, he's going to have to face some adversity as the fight goes on, but if you lose confidence to a fighter that can literally has the boxing IQ, that knows, hey, this guy doesn't want to be in here with me. Hey, he's just hanging just to survive for 12 rounds. You can't lose confidence, because if you lose confidence, that's going to lead to Floyd Schofield making the silly mistakes to put himself in danger to possibly be knocked out by Shakur Stevenson. So I think he will lose the fight if he loses the mental game, which you cannot lose confidence. There's 12 rounds. Each round matters, but you learn as each round goes on of what your opponent does best and what they do, things that they do bad at. So Floyd Schofield cannot afford to lose confidence as this fight goes on. Now, for the champion, Shakur, he's going to have to pop that jab. Now, earlier in the episode, I was just talking about fighters that have one of the best jabs in the sport. Shakur Stevenson joins the list of having one of the best jabs in the sport when it comes to himself, Dimitri Bivol, Devin Haney, and several others. I think if Shakur Stevenson leads with the jab and use feints to land the combinations, when he lands the combinations, using the jab, and then when you're done using the jab, you can feint your opponent. You can feint Floyd Schofield to believe in you. You can use the jab and land the 1-2 combinations, let the hands fly, and make Floyd Schofield make some mistakes. Now, next, Shakur is going to have to be elusive defensively. Now, he's one of the best defensive fighters in the sport of boxing. It is so hard to hit Shakur Stevenson. And I'm not comparing him to Floyd Mayweather, but in terms of being a defensive fighter, in this current generation, when you think of Shakur Stevenson as the defensive fighter, first thing you think about is Floyd Mayweather. So I think if Shakur can frustrate Floyd Schofield defensively, and Shakur Stevenson is hard to hit, that could lead to Floyd Schofield making some mistakes and Shakur Stevenson capitalizing on that with some counter punches that could frustrate Floyd Schofield for the remainder of the fight. Last but not least, he's got to use his experience. Shakur Stevenson obviously has the experience by a mile. He's a former 2-division world champion, has experience in the Olympics, 2-division world champion, pound-for-pound fighter in the sport of boxing. Uses experience against somebody that's getting their first world title opportunity. In terms of having an advantage, experience-wise, it doesn't get much better than this for Shakur Stevenson. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Shakur Stevenson to defeat Floyd Schofield. Give me Shakur Stevenson by the knockout. They win by knockout to retain that WBC lightweight title. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking knockout, but hear me out. I think Shakur Stevenson is going to be too much for Floyd Schofield to handle. And I think Floyd Schofield is in a position where his daddy talked him into this position knowing damn well he's not ready for this fight, which leads me to expect that Shakur Stevenson is going to get the knockout victory. But as the fight goes on, I think Shakur Stevenson is going to outbox him. He's going to use his boxing IQ. He's going to be elusive defensively, hard to hit. He's already a hard fighter to hit, one of the best defensive fighters in the game. And I think when he does that, he's going to move around and be hard to hit. That's where he's going to land the counter punches and frustrate Floyd Schofield. Now, I feel like Floyd Schofield, he's going to try, obviously, but I feel like he's going to lose confidence as this fight goes on, which is going to lead him to, in his mind, in his corner's mind, believing that he's going to need a knockout as the fight goes on. And I think Shakur is going to knock him out in the second half of the fight with him making some lackluster mistakes. Shakur Stevenson is already trying to make a great impression on this lightweight division that is growing more interesting as the days go on, as the nights go on. This division with Gervonta Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, Keyshawn Davis. I just think Shakur needs a knockout victory here to establish him as a true threat, and I think he can do that against Floyd Schofield. But another reason why I think Shakur can knock him out, I've seen flaws in Floyd Schofield's game when he fought a few months ago. I forgot the Mexican's name, and I apologize for that. But he got dropped in the 11th round of that fight, sent to the canvas, looked very chinny, in a fight that he already had in the bag. Why are you still taking risks that late in a fight that you're going to cruise to a victory for? Not saying that you have to be lax, and that kind of makes me sound like a hypocrite, because that's what Shakur did against Artur, but I'm talking about in a standpoint of you exchanging punches in the pocket, just standing there like a sitting tree. Why are you not moving around to avoid these punches? Why are you still taking these risks knowing that you're going to win the fight? Floyd Schofield did that in his last fight, got dropped. And I've seen a lot of flaws in his game that I think Shakur Stevenson is going to pick apart, which leads me to believing that Shakur is going to get the knockout victory. So that is my prediction between Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield.